Good morning, everyone. Kris with Inspired Energy here this morning. Good morning, Mr. Hartwell.
Good morning, Miss Kris, and everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Hey. So, this morning's show, we're going to be talking about format channels. We're just expanding into going into deeper aspects of human design, some of the things that you can delve farther into after you've had an initial reading. So, to start off, the format channels, Hartwell, what are they and what is the significance? Like, what role do they play in human design?
Well, they are the three channels that run from the root, which is the bottommost center. They run from the root, which is the center of pressure and drive in life, and they go to the sacral center, which is the center of the life force and vitality. And so, because the pressure center of the root is all about our drive, about our evolution, and about moving forward in life, and it's being empowered. It's empowering the life force. These channels represent themes that in a sense, the primary themes of human life. And so if you have one or more of those, then in a sense, they set the tone for the whole theme of the circuitry of your chart.
Right. So, exactly how many format channels are there, and what are they?
Well, I would say there are three with an asterisk, which we could point to later.
Is that like a disclaimer or expand on the knowledge?
No, it's kind of like sort of a slight modifying claim. So the three channels that you see there at the bottom, they're 5342, which is the channel, the collective circuitry relating to the abstract sensing circuit, which we talked about last week. And then there's the 952 on the right side, which is the energy, it's part of the collective circuitry as well, but the logic circuitry. And then the middle channel is the format channel, the 360, for the individual circuitry.
Interesting. So maybe you could go into each one of those and tell us exactly what they are. So, can you tell us about the 5342?
Yes. The 5342 is called the channel of maturation, a design of balance and balanced cyclical development. So remember, the sensing or abstract circuitry, two names for the same thing basically, is all about learning from experience. So in the channel of maturation, we see how the format, this sets the format or the theme for the entire channel. So the channel of maturation likes to begin something, reach a middle, come to an end. So it takes you through an experiential pathway. And then at the end, you reflect on that experience, and that becomes part of the foundational wisdom that we all hold collectively, helping us to live better lives, and to move forward with a sense of being able to learn from the past. So that's that channel.
Okay. So what about the 52-9? What is that?
The 52-9, which is called the channel of concentration and design of determination, is part of the collective circuitry, but the logic side of that circuitry. And logic it needs to have a focus. And then with that focus, it needs to have the energy, which is concentration, in order to investigate, to look at the patterns, to test the patterns, to see, to figure out how to improve and move forward with a pattern. So in order for the logic with its future orientation, with its focus orientation, it needs to have that it needs to have a focus in order to stick with the process and test out the hypotheses. And
Mm.
that's the underlying function of that circuitry. And so, I mean, I know that you, for instance, Kris, have part of the logic circuitry. You have the channel of logic, which is at the very top, and
Right.
it's obviously part of that whole that whole circuitry. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the format channel of the 52.9 which sets the flavor for that.
Mm-hmm.
So on some level or another, all channels in the sensing circuitry, the 5342, which is
Mm-hmm.
that format channel, all of them have that need to go through cyclic development, a beginning, a middle, and an end. They're all cyclic. Whereas all the logic channels, beginning with the format of the 52.9, have that sense of we need to uh, grab onto something, look at it, pull it apart, look at the patterns, test them out, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting. So I know the next one is the 360 or 63, which I know I have. The channel of mutation. When you say that, at first I'm thinking like X-Men, right? Mutate the body, whatever. So exactly
Yeah.
what is that, and like how does that apply to someone's life?
Yes. The 63 is the channel of mutation, a design of energy which initiates and fluctuates. So
Mm-hmm.
this channel is it's what it's what it's what keys us into the evolutionary impulse, which does move like a pulse. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not.
Right.
And when it's not there, it often feels melancholic. And the
Mm-hmm.
melancholy draws the energy down into a place, of it's kind of like the hanged man in the tarot, or it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the idea that in the spring, things are going on beneath the surface, and in the beneath the surface of the ground, plants are starting
Mm-hmm.
to awaken, and sap is starting to run in the trees, but you don't see anything yet. And so
Mm-hmm.
melancholy is a signature energy that relates to the individual circuitry. And
Mm-hmm.
we are meant to allow for and not make that melancholy wrong. And then at some point, a pulse moves through that initiates change, and it brings forth something into the world in an unexpected, individualistic, mutational way.
Mm-hmm.
And that cannot be timed, it cannot be controlled, it cannot be anything. It simply has to be allowed because it's a form of knowingness. And
Mm-hmm.
so all of these circuits of the individual circuitry have this flavor, which is set by the channel 63.
Mm-hmm.
And all people who carry that mutational energy in the world are, just by their very nature of walking through the world, they are creating change around them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you with the channel 60/3, just so
Mm-hmm.
that people don't think it's 63, it's
Okay.
63
Yeah.
is, it means that change occurs around you in the lives of the people around you. You are in a sense holding that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and then of course change, things that inspire change move through you, as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you'll have your melancholy periods, and
Mm-hmm.
then it'll erupt forth into a sense of, okay, this is what's coming through.
Yeah, I can relate to that pattern. As you say, you go through that melancholy phase, and then all of a sudden something shifts, and it's like, okay, now I'm over that. Let's go down with it, right? It's like, I don't know, it's like almost like hibernating in a cave, and then all of a sudden the light goes on and goes, oh, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? Right. So,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
not something that consciously sometimes that I'm even aware of. So it just kind of happens. Like it's like a
Hmm.
switch. Yeah. So it makes sense what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really important. It's good to hear stories of people who actually have these channels, so that
Mm-hmm.
then we can have a sense of what that means.
Yeah.
And I mean, even as you become, as a student of human design, become
Mm-hmm.
aware of this, it's like, okay, how is that working for me? And
Mm-hmm.
how do I respect my design in an even deeper way?
Right. So what if you only have one of the gates of the channel? How does that look and how does that affect you?
Well, still looking at those three channels between the root and the sacral,
Mm-hmm.
which of course means there's 6 gates down there. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a full channel, I mean, you may not have any of those gates at all. There are
Mm-hmm.
people who don't. But say
Right.
you do have one gate,
Mm-hmm.
then it does suggest that your chart, say you had only gate 3,
Mm-hmm.
it would suggest that, there's going to be more of a leaning towards the individual circuitry theme
Mm-hmm.
in your chart. There's going to be an underlying mutational theme, even if you don't have that entire channel. So
Right.
they're that powerful, those format channels.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying that, okay, um, for instance, I have, of those 6 gates, I only have one of them, and it's gate 3. So it
Mm-hmm.
means that there's going to be a bit of a mutational flavor,
Mm-hmm.
in my life, even though I don't have the whole format channel.
So what happens when you work with somebody that has the other part of it? So I have the whole channel 3/60. And if you have the 3, then what does that mean? Like when people are relating to each other?
Well, if one person, I mean, that could be the whole, that could be a whole little segment on its own. But if somebody has the whole channel and you have half, you would say, I am compromised in that.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that when we're talking about any theme relating to mutation, you're going to rule the roost. It's going to be, you've got the whole thing, so your energy would override mine, or mine would be subsumed into your energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, for instance, you have a logical channel at the very top, and you
Mm-hmm.
also have the channel 4130, which is collective abstract, the
Mm-hmm.
collective sensing circuit. So you have 3 channels, and they're all, oh, you have a 4th channel, which is a tribal channel. So you
Mm-hmm.
have one channel of each of the circuitry. One tribal, one collective abstract, one collective logical, and one individual.
No wonder
But
I don't know who I am.
but because you have an entire tribal channel, it means that the overriding theme of your life is mutational,
Mm.
because
So
it's that strong.
so it should be a good mutation, not a bad mutation. Hopefully.
Well, mutations are always iffy. It's like the survival of the fittest. Some
Right.
mutations are viable and some are not. But I mean, this is more about what arises from your life, not about you as an individual.
I know, but it just sounds funny. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
is there, oh, go ahead.
well, I said that there was one sort of asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
Technically speaking, the tribal circuitry has no format channel,
Mm-hmm.
and yet the channel that goes from the root to the solar plexus is considered very important and sets the theme for the entire tribal circuitry. So the 59-6, the channel of mating and design of reproduction,
Mm-hmm.
is, if you were to see that in a chart, with none of the other format channels, you would say, okay, that's kind of a chart that's going to have a primarily tribal flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is there any last things you want to tell us about these format channels before we wrap up?
I just find it fascinating that we can look at people's lives or people's charts and see these underlying themes. It really it comforts me because you can't study human design. You can't, to me, I can't study human design or astrology without really being aware that the universe is designed. The universe is meaningful. The universe
Has a plan.
has been created, you know,
Yeah.
so it makes me think of God, and you know, it also makes me feel, hey, I've been created. I'm here for a purpose. There's a way, there's a reason and a goodness to my being the way I am.
Yeah. I think of it like a puzzle. So every piece has its place that makes it fit together as a whole, right? So
Yes,
good.
yes.
That's a good one. So I'm not sure what our topic is next week, but I just want to say join us again next week at 9 a.m. and we'll have some more interesting tidbits for you. And with that, we'll say God bless, love you all, and we'll see you next Wednesday.